love me. Let's go to work, State Level.
This is an exciting day. I am going to be interviewing a very well-known entertainer, Mr. Mel Tllis. We have been invited aboard his tour bus. This is Margaret Lee, Special People and Places. Today I have an extremely special guest, Mr. Mel Tllis.
Hi, Margaret.
Mel, oh, we appreciate this so much.
Well, it's my pleasure.
As I explained to you, and Larry sent an email, when we found out that you were going to appear in Birmingham, Alabama, I was beside myself. I said, that's too close. You've got to try. He contacted your people, and you very graciously said you would meet with us, but because we have a mutual friend, do you want to tell people about that?
Slim Old Mary, and he's from Alabama.
The Old Marys. Slim brought his band and played for our wedding.
Oh, boy. And he talked real slow like this, and I stuttered, so you ought to hear us get together sometime. But he passed away not too long ago. But I love Slim, and he was on our band on Okinawa. And he was one of the singers, and I was the other singer. And we played guitar, a little rhythm guitar, but I really love Slim. He used to come to see me in Nashville when I lived in Nashville, and also he came to see me in Detroit. I did some commercials for Stroh's beer, and Slim showed up with his Bible. He came to Branson, and we had a band reunion, and all the Westerners, we call ourselves the Westerners, and he wasn't one of us from the West.
But we'll have to tell people that went all the way back to 1952.
Well, 1952, I went in the Air Force. Well, let me tell you this. I was in college in 1951. I was at the University of Florida, and I was also in the National Guard, and I was taking ROTC at Florida, and I felt like that I was going to get drafted. And I went home for Christmas, and I said, Daddy, I said, I'm not going back to school. He said, why? Well, I said, I feel like I won't get drafted. And my dad had a little bakery, and he said, if you ain't going back to school, you're going in the bakery shop. I'm going to pay you $20 a week, and $10 of that is room and board. And I said, well, Daddy, up to about 15 minutes ago, it was free. He said, ain't free no more. I go across the street to the post office to get me the mail. And I went over there, and there was the Air Force recruiter had his table just set up. And he had the American flag there, and had Uncle Sam, we want you. And I thought that was nice to be wanted like that, so I joined the Air Force. And on Christmas Day, Mom and Dad, they took me to West Palm Beach and put me on a train, and I rode the train all the way out to San Antonio, Texas.
Okay. You had basic there?
And I had my basic at Lackland Air Force Base. About 3 or 4 weeks into our training, they called us all in for to have that aptitude test to tell us what we were suited for. What we were suited for. And I waited on mine. Waited. Everybody was getting their orders. Was coming back for them to report to gunnery school. Some supplies and motor pool, and mine said for me to report across town to the 4th Army Bacon School.
They found out about your background?
My Daddy, that's turning over in his grave right now. Every time I tell it, you know. But that's what I did for 4 years. I was a baker in the Air Force, and I tell folks I served my country. I served them cakes and cookies and pies and donuts.
And they needed that too, Mel.
Yeah.
Well, your dad must have got a big kick out of that, though.
Oh, yeah. He did.
And you didn't have to pay for your room and board either.
No, I didn't.
And when did you meet our Slim O'Mary?
I met Slim on Okinawa. Slim was in the Army, and I was in the Air Force. And I joined a little band over there. I had a little radio in my little workshop there on my bakery spot where I worked, and I would turn it on and listen to. There was a band over there, and they called themselves the Westerners. And I had it on, and it said that we're going to be over at Sinatra tonight at the Officers Club, and we invite all you folks to come out. And he said, and we're going to need a new singer. It's his last night, and he'll be going home. And he said, we're going to need a singer. Well, I didn't have enough rank to get in, but if you was a non-com, you could get in if you had more stripes than a corporal. And an old buddy of mine from Gillette, Virginia, he said, I'll take you. Here's a sergeant. And he took me over there to that club, and I met Tommy Sparks. Tommy was from Missouri, from Saxton, Missouri, and he was the leader of the band. And my buddy from Virginia, from Gillette, old Roberts, he took me up to meet him, on their break. And I went up and he introduced me, and I couldn't say my name. I stuttered so bad in those days, really bad. And he said, he can sing. He said, well, hell, he can't talk. yeah, but he can sing. And they let me sing, and I did Alabama Jubilee. And boy, they got up to dancing, them people did, and he said, you did it so well, sing it again. And they hired me, and I spent the next 2 years learning how to be a band member and how to be how to run a band and how to talk to a crowd. I got some valuable experience doing that, and the more that I was on stage, the less I stuttered, and the more that I talked,
You were more comfortable.
Right.
And so when did Slim come in?
He came in about 6 months after I was in the band, and he could sing good. And I said, well, you need another singer to help me out, And we worked maybe 3 nights a week, got paid $5 a night a piece. But I saved up enough my money that when I got home to Pahokee, Florida, I bought me a 1953 Bel Air Chevrolet.
I'd be darned.
Yeah, from that money that I earned over there, and I was still in the Air Force, and I had to do another 2 years, so they sent me to Lincoln, Nebraska, and I went to Lincoln, Nebraska. I met a young man in the autograph line, and he could sing, and I invited him over, and his name was Lisa Martin. It turned out to be Boxcar Willie. So old Boxcar and I, we was in Lincoln for 2 years, and we played all over that area, Omaha, and all over.
So you still played while you finished up your military tour of duty then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And went back to Florida?
I went back, and my folks had moved from Pahokee up to Plant City, Florida, which is just outside of Tampa. And I had a cousin with the railroad, the Atlantic Coastline. And he told me, he said, I think they're hiring. He said, I'll take you up there. That's why I went up there, and they took me. And I didn't have to do any talking for them, but in those days I couldn't say nothing. And anyway, they hired me, and they made a fireman out of me, and I got to sit up on that engine, up on the engine with the engineer, and my job was to keep him alert. I wrote a song called Atlantic Coastal Line, riding the Atlantic Coastal Line, and Charlie Pride, that was his first single, and yeah, and I wrote the other side of it too, and it was called Snakes Crawl at Night. So anyway, I would use my railroad pass to go to Nashville.
Oh, perfect.
And I would go from Tampa to Jacksonville, and then I'd switch over to the L&N, the Louisville-Nashville Railroad, and go right down into the heart of Nashville and get off the train right downtown. And that's what I did. I wrote it, several times, and I'd knock on the door, and they said, "No, we don't need stuttering singers. We need songs." So I said, "Well, I never, that's what we need." And I started writing songs. And the first one was that the Atlantic Coastline Railroad, riding the Atlantic. Everybody calls me Bo, got no money but a whole mile road. Some folks say I'm just a no good kind, but I can ride for miles on an old boxcar, smoke cigarette butts and use cigars, riding the Atlantic Coastal Line.
Oh my word!
Yeah.
And that was your very first song?
It was a first one. No, the first one was a song called "I'm Tired." Oh Lord, I'm tired, and it went #1 for Webb Pierce. I wrote the. And then I wrote another one called Honky Tonk Song. It went #1. So I said, "Lord, I'm a songwriter. Didn't even know it." So I moved to Nashville, and I started writing songs instead of performing. But they found out that I could sing without stuttering. And Porter Wagner hired me on his show, put me on his show. And from there, I began to get the Mike Douglas show out of Philadelphia. I got a Merv Griffin show in L.A. and Dinosaur show, the Hollywood Squares. I got on all those shows. The next thing I know, I'm doing movies and TV shows. Won Entertainer of the Year, and I won all awards. There ain't no more awards.
Oh, I know. You've won them all the top awards.
The president not too long ago, the American Music Award, yeah.
For your contribution. Which of the awards are you most proud of? But I know you're proud of all of them, aren't you? All of the awards. Which one are you most proud of, or all of them?
I think, I won the Songwriter of the Year, and then Songwriter of the Decade, another award for that. Entertainer of the Year, and that's the one that I'm most proud of, was Entertainer of the Year, because I got to make people laugh, And I started talking on stage, and the more I talked, the less I stuttered. I signed an autograph not too long ago in Branson, and there's some guy up on, "Hey, Mel, said I paid $45 to hear you stutter, and you ain't stuttered one damn bit." And I said, "I'm trying to quit, sir."
He was disappointed.
Yeah. Oh, and I'd go to Hollywood out there, and I'd be in sitcoms, the Glenn Campbell Good Time Hour, and all them shows I was on, Dean Martin, and they would write the stutter in for. Don't do that. I may not stutter on that word. Don't do that. I'll stutter where I stutter.
They were trying to control you. Where people are just, you have so many fans, and people are just, they're amazed at how many songs you've written, Mel.
Well, those are all blessings, because I'm not that smart. And, we just finished a new one. I started it, and son, he said, "Let me help you finish it." So I did a song called "Babies." I wish that babies could be babies a little bit longer. And he sings that on stage, and them old ladies are crying. He'll sing it today for you.
Oh my goodness, that sounds wonderful. It kind of made you cry too, didn't it?
Oh, yeah,
It brought tears.
yeah. Because they're up and gone before you know it.
Oh, I know.
And, you know, I got the 5 girls and 1 son. They're up and gone.
Well, I noticed in the photo we have that Slim was so proud of when he came out to a visit with you and Branson, and your little girl Hannah is just a little one, and you said she's now...
She's 27 years old.
My goodness.
And...
she's the youngest, of course.
Right, and she's a legal assistant, little adopted girl. Judy and I wanted a child, but she couldn't have a baby, so we heard about one through the church, a baby in Indianapolis, and it was going to be born on such and such. And they called us and said, well, the baby's here. And we got in the car and went up there and got her when she was just 1 day old, and brought her home. And she's been the love of our lives. She's just a wonderful, wonderful daughter.
Well, she was a blessed baby.
Girl. She's from Malaysia. Yeah.
Just a beautiful child. I'd love to see, before we go, I'm going to see a picture of her, the way she looks today.
Yeah.
I look at that photo all the time when I show people through the museum and talk about you. Yes.
Yeah.
Do you have, now we're fortunate to be able to be with you today in Birmingham, and how often do you tour, Mel?
Well, you know, I do about 100 shows a year.
Really?
And that's nothing.
That's nothing.
You love it.
I guess to a trooper.
And you can tell on stage when you see our show that I really love it.
Oh, you're just so blessed with good health. You've had a few problems lately, but you've healed up.
I didn't even know I needed one. I felt a little tickle up in here. It didn't hurt and come and go. This went on about 6 months, and I said, I better go get that checked out. So I went to a doctor's office in Ashland City, Tennessee, and he said, Mel, he said, and they put all that stuff. He said, you need to go see a heart doctor. And I went, and they did all that stuff. They said, you need to check in. And I said, when? He said, now. I said, I can't check in now. I got to go to Nova Scotia. And he said, then when will you be back? I said, well, I think I should be back by Monday. He said, don't check in. Or don't go home. Check in. So I went up there, and I did one show in Toronto and the other in Nova Scotia. Came in and checked in, and next thing I knew, they was prepping me, you know, shaving me and everything they could shave. and I went in, and they did the bypass, had me up the next morning walking.
Okay. So,
and that all healed up. I never did feel any pain with that. But on Thanksgiving, last Thanksgiving, I made some ambrosia, fruit salad, and I put a lot of nuts in it, and I had about 2 or 3 helpings. and I woke up the next morning, and I had a little pain in my gut. I said, it'll go away. Well, it didn't. At midnight, and I was by myself. The kids had gone home. I got in my truck, and I went to the little hospital there in Ashland City. They said, they took x-rays. They said, you got diverticulitis. You need to go to the big hospital. So they sent the ambulance, and they took me up there and prepped me. And next thing I knew, they had a scar. I got scars, and I got a big old thing, you know, where that they had that bag. But all that's healed up now, and you know, but that hurt.
Extremely painful.
Hurt. I'll tell you a little story about that. They booked me at Harris Hotel and Casino in Lake Tahoe. and they asked me if I could come out there and fill in for Frank Sinatra. I said, yes, sir, we'll be there. And we went, and I asked him, I said, what's the matter with Frank? And said, well, he's in the hospital. And, well, I know that, but what's the matter with him? Well, you'll have to, I don't know. They said, and I went to visit with him, and he told me that he had diverticulitis. He said, Mel, he said, it hurts. Don't ever get this. I said, well, okay, I'll try not to, but I got it in spite of all that. But I found out that it really hurts, and I cut down on the nuts. I love pecans and almonds and all kind of stuff.
And the almonds are so good for us.
Yeah, yeah.
But not all the time. They're not good for you, found out.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Frank Sinatra. Okay. You know all of them. But now Nancy Sinatra, I noticed in your bio, didn't you do a recording with Nancy?
Yes, I did a album with her.
My.
And that's how I met Frank. And then when I was in Vegas, I was the 14 weeks at the Frontier Hotel, and Frank was at Caesars. And he'd call me up hey, Mel. He said, how did he say that? Well, anyway, he's asked me to come up, and visit with him. He had a little place, roped off from the stage, when he got through, and he'd come down there instead and have a few drinks and go to bed. But I'd go up there with him every afternoon. He was very interested. He wanted to know all about country music, and this and that. And he heard some of my songs, that he liked. And I believe if he hadn't passed away, that he would probably have done some of those songs.
No doubt.
Yeah, I did this album with Nancy, and he did pretty good.
Oh, yeah. Boy, she had that big one, something about these boots will walk all over you.
Yeah, these boots are made for walking.
Okay. Yes, yes.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So
But you know what has been the biggest part of my life? It's been humor. Best medicine in the world. Humor. And let me tell you about that. My daddy stuttered a little bit. And my brother Richard, he's 13 months older than I, and he stuttered a little bit. And I stuttered too, but I thought, well, that's the way we talk. I didn't know any difference. And I started at school, Woodrow Elementary, in Plant City, Florida. And I came home the first day, and I said, Mama, do I stutter? And she said, yes, you do, son. And I said, Mama, they laughed at me. And she said, well, son, if they're going to laugh at you, give them something to laugh about. So I went back to school the next day, and that was my very first day in show business. I learned the secret of humor. And humor is the best medicine. And Mama had 8 sisters, and every one of them was so funny. They had some great stories. I got one, Aunt Moselle and Aunt Woodrow, up in the 80s, and they still drive. Yeah, they drive. They go to Walmart. They go to have them toenails worked on by them Koreans, and they and not too long ago they were going somewhere, and Aunt Moselle was driving, and she ran through a stoplight, and Aunt Woodrow, she didn't say anything. She just kind of cleared her throat a little bit, and Aunt Moselle went on up. She ran through another one. Well, Aunt Woodrow put on her seatbelt and sort of braced herself a little bit, and Aunt Moselle went up. She ran through the third one. And Aunt Woodrow said, Moselle, did you know that you just ran through your third stoplight? And Aunt Moselle said, oh, my God, am I driving? Isn't that silly?
No, but it's funny. Oh, my gosh. Larry has a nephew, and he was a patrolman, and he pulled over this little lady that went through a stoplight. And he said, you went through that stoplight. She says, I know, but she said nothing was coming. And she said, my arthritis is so bad. She said, I don't stop unless I just have to.
That's humor.
Yes, I mean, true story. Yes, and while we're talking about that, you have started a little book.
Well, it's all finished. We're editing it now.
Oh!
It's called Acting Sheriff, and there's a. Now that's going to be the cover. Acting Sheriff. It takes place in 1947. Well, let me tell you how this started.
Okay.
Someone asked Mark Twain. I said, Mr. Twain, do you have some kind of a regimen or something that you do before you get started writing? He said, yes. He said, I get up in the morning about 5 o'clock, I put on a pot of coffee, I light a cigar, and I just start lying. I said, well, hell, I can do that. And I sit down. When I sit down, and I could type, because I learned that in school. That was one of my best subjects was typing. And I sat down, and I didn't get up till it was finished. And we're editing it now. I got a chapter 31 that I'm editing, and it's got I got 49 chapters in it. But anyway, it's called Acting Sheriff, and the real sheriff has to go into the hospital for a hemorrhoid operation, and he appoints his one of his sergeants as acting sheriff. And all this takes place in my home county, in Palm Beach County. It takes place in 1947. And it's just full of laughs and redneck humor.
Oh, we will be looking forward to that.
Okay.
And how did you come up with that character?
The acting sheriff, his name was William Ivy. And the guy that they're after in there, a dairy burnt down, and he's running from the law, and his name was Tripoli. And he had a sister that owned the dairy, and her name was Twyla. So I got some good character names in there, and I think you'll laugh. It's got a lot of redneck stuff in there.
When do you anticipate putting that baby to bed?
I got to finish editing it, and I think that'll be about a month. We'll have it ready to go, and we're looking at all different our options. One's with Amazon, and the other is to do it ourselves, or to go to a major pub. Well, let me tell you this: it's got some words in it but it's a book.
A little colorful language, maybe?
Yes, and my daughter Hannah knows of the guy that was the head of a publishing company in Nashville. It was a subsidiary of one of them big companies, and she said, "I'll take it to him," and she took it to him, and he kept it for 30 days. And I asked her, "When's it coming back?" She said, "Well, it'll be back." And the next 2 or 3 days it came back. And I said, "Well, what did he say?" And she said, "Well, he said it was intriguing." Intriguing. So I said, "Okay."
Oh, so he didn't like that colorful language, maybe.
He said he liked the book. Yeah.
Well, but now you have done really a gospel album, haven't you, Mel?
Yeah, a couple of them.
Okay.
Yeah, my first one went gold. It took it 19 years, and it's called Beyond the Sunset. And the latest one out now, it's doing good too. It's on its way, and it's called The Father's Son.
Oh.
And it's really, really good song.
Oh my.
They say we're living on the edge of something really good. Heads getting better every day. They say we can put an end to war and learn to love each other. And if we look inside ourselves, we'll surely find a way. Ah, but you can't love your brother if you don't know the Father. You can't know the Father if you don't know the Son. A buddy of mine that used to be in my band, he's now the staff fiddle player at Grand Ole Opry, and his name is Hoot Hester. I know Hoot wrote that.
Oh, well, I can't wait to hear that. We'll have to get that album. Have you written any gospel songs?
Oh, yeah, I wrote one called Mama's Bible, and Porter Wagner did it.
But you have written some gospel.
Yeah.
Mel, but I'm just really interested. Sometimes these writers, songwriters, even as youngsters, they find out they can write a little bit. Even your college days, it didn't ever occur to you to write a song.
Yeah, I wrote one there. There's an old boy from Lakeland, Florida, named Ernest Cumby, and he played the mandolin, and I played the guitar. And I wrote a song called North Florida, South Georgia, and the good old USA. And you know, there's a group out called Florida Georgia Line, and I bet you that's where that idea came from.
Could be. Yeah. But so you found out early on you had a little talent, but nothing like when you started playing with the band in Okinawa.
Yeah, I learned so much on Okinawa from Tommy Sparks. He was the leader of the band, and he's from Saxton, Missouri, and he taught me how to play a sock rhythm instead of the open chords. Oh, Slim, he played the open chord, and I played the sock. And they call us brush apes.
They called you too?
Yeah.
You and Slim?
Brush apes. Well, look, he played open chords, so he wasn't a brush ape. I mean, I played, closed chords. Oh. And it acted as a drum, because we didn't have drums.
Oh, I see.
In days.
And when we opened that depot, Slim, that was in 1997, and it was exactly 100 years after, the original opened. And Slim came, and we have a video, and Larry's going to copy that. He wrote a song and surprised us with it. A song about the town, and in this old town, and
they got a good thing going in this old town.